Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow together. Hello everyone, welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome to I'ma Talk About It. Today I am super excited to share with you an episode that's very near and dear to my heart called Meeting Mr. Chow. It's someone I've met on my journey, and I wanted to share this story because we are in a very interesting time right now in the world amongst global unrest, while at the same time you see a lot of people across the world stepping into their power and stepping into their spiritual gifts, reclaiming land, doing everything they can to help the community. And so I wanted to share this story about what can really happen when you decide to embark on this path that has been calling you, whether it's been moving across country or to a different state, leaving a partner behind, or opening yourself up to a partner. Whatever it is, there is always a bigger reason behind it. And so I really wanted to lend some visibility around this and make sure people know that whatever you're about to embark on, it is okay to safely go, because there are likely people down the road who are needing your help, and there's people in this world who need your help. And it's very important right now, whether you are an entrepreneur or not, to be able to liberate your mind, body, and spirit from colonialism, from imperialism, so you can see with accurate energy, see with your accurate eyes, see the unseen, feel the unseen, and be able to come to a path that is new, that is progressive, that will bring a global shift, that will bring change, because it is so necessary right now for us to be able to go in a different direction in order to make sustainable, lifelong change in this world. So I want to tell you about Mr. Chow, who is one of my favorite people in this whole world right now. And for anybody who doesn't know, because I haven't really been talking about it too much, but my best friend and I traveled together. We're both activists, and we found each other, our paths crossed, and it turned out like we were the exact pieces to each other's puzzle. And it became much bigger than what we had imagined. And so we are actively on our own new path as activists, as writers, as musicians, as nomads. And there's many other hats that we have begun to wear as well. And also, if the audio sounds funky, I apologize. I am recording without my mic today because it wasn't working. But anyways, and so we have, from the time that we left California, which was towards the end of last year, have done a complete 360 with who we are, how we look, how our energy is run, how vocal we are. And it's because we did a lot of deep generational healing all along the way and have really answered the call to show up in our community in a different space. So the content and like all of the photos that you're seeing either on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever it is shifting, because we are shifting, and we are shifting with the energy of this world as well. And speaking up as much as we can about issues in the world and connecting as many people as we can. And that does encompass us liberating our bodies and our minds and our spirit in a way that we've never done before and are being guided to do this time around, so we can teach people to do it as well. So along our path, which, we originally were not going to move to Charlotte, but it came along our path, and so we did, and we see why now. We happen to be picking up some plants that I wanted to put on the altar for some work to prepare for our journey ahead, because we're about to leave on a little over a couple months journey across the US and overseas. And we were preparing for that, and I just had this feeling that we really needed to be outside. And we had missed our turn, and we were going back around, and we're in the turning lane, and we see this person. And Emily and I, we always, or shall I say Nyx, she goes by Nyx now, as in Phoenix, we always do our best to carry cash no matter what, so that whenever we see someone, we can give them cash. Before we had cash to give, we were giving food. Food that we had from our move that was non-perishable. So we were giving out everything that we could, and our furniture. And there was this person, and his name ended up being Mr. Chow. And immediately I could feel that they were in deep grief. And so I asked them, without them really telling me why their heart was broken and what they were feeling. And it was a really interesting moment, because as we were sitting in this turning lane, there was a bunch of cars honking at us because the light was green. But I was like, nah, fuck this. Like, we're here for a reason. This person needs help. So we always answer the call. They can just go around. The street's wide enough. And they said that they had lost a lot of their family members, and that they were nervous to speak to them, and that they had become homeless. And many people thought that they were crazy, so they also felt very alienated in this world. So they would go from turning lane to turning lane, hoping to talk to people in their cars, because it was the only connection that they had, and they felt like they were going crazy. And sure enough, because many of you know I am also a medium, a lot of messages were coming through from the other side. I could see, their family members just waiting to talk to them, but for some reason they weren't fully receiving it, even though they could receive it. And that's what was really clear. And a lot of the work that I do as a generational healer and ancestral healer, I always connect people with their ancestors, because the healing journey can be very alienating. It can be really hard, especially when you are ridding yourselves of colonialism and imperial ways of thinking, where you have to give yourself fully over to people who treat you poorly no matter what. And you cannot really be within the veil and be with your ancestors, because you will be told that you are crazy, right? We are very disconnected from our gifts, intentionally so, because if we are not in our power, then we are powerless in their eyes. So a lot of the people who come to me are usually people whose ancestors are trying to get through and are very gifted in some way. And I was sharing with them messages from their ancestors, and learned very quickly how strong their gifts were, because they were also picking up on my gifts. And we had a conversation about healing, and I had given them some advice about how they can connect with them, and they kept saying that they were still scared, because when they were younger, obviously people called them crazy. Very similar to something that many of us have gone through, myself in particular. And I have another podcast episode about it, about the life in the shadows. And I did my best to give them encouragement about slowly opening themselves up to their gifts, because they are never alone. We are never alone. And our ancestors, our guides, whatever you believe in, universe, God, is always there. Always there, always communicating, always watching. And during times of loneliness, it's important that we remember those things and that we can communicate, because we don't have to experience that heartbreak of loneliness that we were taught to experience, and that we were taught to chase after people and connections and do whatever is necessary to make them happy, or else they're going to leave us, right? And so many people who choose not to do that end up very lonely and depressed. And so I was lending a different perspective and sending just lots of healing energy and letting him know that his ancestors loved him so much. There were so many, so many, like anxiously smiling and awaiting to talk to him. And, we eventually ended up driving away. But as we were driving, I was like, I feel like I haven't finished what I needed to say. And we went down the block to go to a store, and then as we were leaving to drive home, I told Emily, oh, we should stop at that GameStop. And when we pulled into the parking lot, it turns out Mr. Chow had all of his stuff there, and that was actually where he lived. He lived on the outside of a GameStop, and which is a very unique place, and I was surprised that they, let him stay there, especially for it being a corporate type of setting. And when I was talking to the people who worked there, they said that corporate had told them many times to ask him to leave, to tell him to leave. They didn't want him there, but the workers, and I believe they said it was all male presenting people, resisted. They basically said fuck off. We are going to protect him so that he can have a home. And so every single one of them who work there watch out for Mr. Chow like their guardians. And it was the most beautiful thing, because Mr. Chow could have a safe space. And for those folks who are homeless, your things are often taken. You're often pushed and shoved into areas because you're not allowed to be there. And you spend most of your time migrating from place to place to place, not receiving help that you should be receiving, because you should have a home. And even though he didn't have four walls, he still could be within the shop. They allowed him in the shop all day long, so he could at least have shelter. And then his stuff was outside, and he was very, very neat and clean. And the more I had conversations with him, the more he opened up, and he told me that he had a yoga practice and he invited me back to do yoga with him. So we're actually going to try and do yoga with him this week and bring him some more things for his home. And I kept trying to figure out what it was about our conversation that needed to come forward. And he started to tell a story about how his whole life he had seen spirits, and he was telling me all of the stories and how they just wanted to speak with him. But he had a very harsh lens on spirits, from what he was taught, that, spirits were evil, stay away from them, they're going to hurt you, all of these things. So it was very, 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 very fearful. And so then I immediately knew why I was there, to again lend a different perspective and kind of help him transition into using his gifts and not feeling so alone. And so I spoke to him about how the ancestors work and how there are so many spirits around him because he's very gifted and they know that, but they're all very loving. And if there ever was a spirit that didn't feel loving, I, let him know how to send them away, but to also understand, and we need to understand that when we do our spiritual work, just because a spirit appears to be not as welcoming doesn't mean that they are. So most of the time they need help transitioning. It's kind of like if you were walking around having a great day, then all of a sudden you got stuck in a closet and you couldn't get out. You would eventually get frustrated, right? So it's a very similar thing. They forget who they are, they forget what's going on, and they get stuck in this loop of whatever it is that they might be doing, following you, just attaching to energy, right? And so he got very emotional about it, and he said, I believe he said he was 67 or 68. And he said, my whole life, everybody called me crazy and nobody listened to me. It didn't matter how I told my story or if I said I wasn't lying. They had already made up their mind about me that I was crazy, and that was basically how he ended up on the street. And it was very heartbreaking to know that we as people can be so shut down and closed-minded to other people's gifts and to just people in general. And you see this even when you walk around on the street. If there's someone homeless, like even if they're yelling, people get fearful, people lock their doors, people do all of these things. They put out this energy of you're not welcome here, which I understand it, that sometimes, yes, you can feel unsafe. Most of the time, people are harmless, and it doesn't do us any good if we're not helping. If we're not having conversations, if we're not engaging with people. Had we not stopped, he would have been going day after day after day through this dark spiral of grieving his family and being called crazy. Because even the one person in the store, when I started talking about ancestors, was like, oh, have you been smoking weed? And I put them in their place. Like, how dare you? No. And I was like, don't project, And it's that tension where we can't fathom something else. We can't even think that maybe I might not have all the answers. And it doesn't mean that us as spiritual people have all the answers either. We have to be open to other religions, to other cultures, because if you are a practitioner of spirituality, you better be a practitioner and a person who listens to other people's cultures and opinions as well. Otherwise, you are just perpetuating harm, and it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you connect with all the other ancestors that are probably trying to get through, because you shut down and think that your only way of spirituality is the right way, which isn't true. We have to learn to be together, to cohabitate, to be peaceful. And one of the most beautiful things he said after he was able to release those emotions, release his grief, feel hopeful, I had given him my book, and he had said how beautiful I was and how beautiful Emily was, and that his wish was to just receive love, because he had so much love to give to people, in his words. And he said, I don't care what anybody says. Every woman is beautiful in their own way. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what shape you are. I don't care if you're missing a limb or two. Like, you are the most beautiful thing to me, most beautiful energy, beautiful spirit, beautiful body, whatever it is. And he just had all this pure love that he couldn't share with people because of how people have allowed themselves to not be liberated from their colonialism, that they couldn't see a compassionate, loving human because of a belief that was handed to them to keep them stuck. So you have to understand that when we are fighting to end genocides, to liberate people, your journey must include your anti-colonial, anti-imperialism, anti-racist work in your mind, in your body, and in your spirit. By in your mind, you have to open your mind. You have to be less fearful. You have to understand how your ego works. You have to meet it with compassion so you can meet others with compassion. With your spirit, you have to open yourself to different energies because everything is energy. If you are functioning in this world without doing energy work every single day, I don't know how you're going to survive the next couple months, because you will be filled with fear and trauma quicker than anything that I can think of right now. Because our power as a collective lies within the balance of those three things. That is when we are at our strongest. That is when we are able to articulate clearly. That is when we are able to show up with a fierceness that nobody will mess with. And with our body, everybody knows this, who have worked with me specifically. The first thing that begins to happen when you do your generational healing is your body starts to change. Immediately. You don't even have to work out that much because your energy starts to change. You lose all this weight. Your skin clears up. You don't feel as shaky. You don't feel as tired. You feel grounded. You feel lit up. You feel like when you take your shoes off and you walk in the grass, you are on fire because you've aligned your mind, your body, and your spirit. So then if anybody tries to make you question your own power or take the power away from someone else, you can steadily stand there and tell them the truth. The truth of their behavior. The truth that their racism is showing. The truth that they walk the path of colonialism and perpetuate hate. And you don't have to take it on. And then if someone tries to gaslight you, you say, "You are gaslighting me right now." Are you aware? Because you are so steady that you cannot waver. You cannot, because you remember who you are and what you are fighting for. And it doesn't mean that you can't be angry or like shout or do all these things. By any means, do what you need to do to heal. We don't do it at other people because that is counterproductive. We alchemize it into a different type of strength and then use that energy to move forward, to create solutions, to create safety, to protest, to be musicians, to be artists, to give money, to keep creating. Whatever it is, we shift our energy into something else. We build communities because communities are the only way we're going to get out of genocide and war. We can't do it alone. Whenever I hear people say, "Oh, I just, stick to myself," and I'm like, well, you're also perpetuating things. Because there's a difference between staying peaceful and staying ignorantly isolated. If you have the gifts and perception and ability to be a leader, it is your obligation to step forward and be a leader, to build communities. If you are not doing it, remember that the scales are being balanced. Your truth will be shown and your path will be changed. You won't have the same prosperity that was once offered to you before because it will pass on to someone else. That is the energy that is going on right now. If you are feeling it, you know exactly what I mean. Your soul tribe is coming in. Your old tribe is falling away. Don't miss the train. But I wanted to share this story because if we didn't decide to go on this path, we would have missed the hundreds of people who we've talked to on this path, who were not only needing help, but were sharing in beautiful knowledge that now we can share on our journey with other people and understand what happens when trauma from many generations ago keeps rolling down the family line to the point where someone is homeless. Because we did that. We failed them. So now we have to go back and do the work, not just for ourselves, but for our entire family line, to ensure that nobody else keeps dying. Nobody else ends up on the street. We can't fear other people's judgment anymore because there are lives at stake. There is no room for it. There is no room for the ego to come in and let you feel fear the minute you wake up. Because if all of us feel fear, who is going to be fighting for the people in Sudan, Congo, and Palestine? If you are bedridden, who's going to share the voice at the White House when Biden shows up? Who's going to create the music that shifts the energy and brings governments together? Who's going to do it? So I want to also remind you that you were given gifts for a reason, and it is your responsibility to use them for the collective, for humanity. And I say this loudly as also a tiny prayer that if you misuse or abuse your gifts, may you forever be bound without them in this lifetime and the next and any, because you don't deserve them. So please, everybody, make sure that you are doing your work every single day, that you are showing up on social media, that you are showing up in the community, moving forward. And if you need help, I need you to book a session with me so we can move forward. And I want you to begin to see healers and people who are offering you resources as an opportunity from the universe. Because what I often see on social media is that people are like, no, I don't wanna. Okay, well, you just told me you had a problem, so good luck. You have to get out of your own way so we can move forward. Because ain't nobody want you to stay stuck anyways. It's dangerous. So understand that when things come into your life, say yes to them. If it feels right. If it feels scary, that's okay. It's new. Your ego's just telling you it's new. Get over it. Move forward. There is no time. There is no time for you to not learn your lesson this time. Because there's people like Mr. Chow, and there's the poor children who have lost their lives in massive numbers through the night. So ensure that you are putting your face into your books, doing whatever you need to do. Remove people who don't need to be in your life anymore. I've been doing the same. I don't really talk to my family. I don't care who you are. If you're not talking about helping me, I don't want to talk to you. Same thing with my friends.
If you're not on the same journey, if you're not fighting genocide, if you're not tapping into your gifts, I want nothing to do with you. Absolutely none. I want you to have the same mentality because you need to have it right now. It's allowed. It's necessary. Because your energy needs to be spent in a different way. And I know it feels weird because it can in the beginning. Because again, people think you're burning bridges, but that's not what that is. Either you burn the bridge or you kill people. Take your pick. But I want you to understand that those are the real choices that you have. And that is what you will be continued to face with until you understand that. So make the right decision. And begin your work. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to let me know. I have placed a ton of resources back into my link tree, and there's going to be more on the way. And I'm actually, because I launched it before, but I took it away a couple years ago, Highest Knowing. So my program, Highest Knowing, I'm going to be bringing back for spiritual activists, healers, entrepreneurs, business folks who are transitioning on their journey or just want to know how to help but need the help. All are welcome. You can come from any background, femme or not, white presenting or not. Just want to clarify that because I know most of my services are for folks of color. All of you are going to be welcome in this program, and I'm going to help you along the way, and I'm going to help you work with your ancestors step by step. And I'm going to show you exactly what I do every day. And I'm going to support you. And we're also going to be bringing in yoga, which I am very, very excited about. Because yoga is very important to your practice, to your mental health, to everything. And if for some reason you're not at the stage of being in highest knowing because it is a big evolution, that is okay. You can start with a Fly With Me session, which is a 60 to 90 minute session where we begin your generational healing. We remove any blocks and we connect you with your inner child, your ancestors, and we do tarot reading. And then there's More Than Worthy. If you want to work for the full 6 months, to remove everything that you can from your life and really get back on track and build the life that you can truly be proud of. And then I haven't picked dates yet, but I will be bringing back the Empowered Femme Initiation specifically for my folks who are a little bit more activated, who are a little bit more fierce. And we end with a giant cleansing of the physical body, the mind, and the spirit. And it goes along with my Empowered Femme Initiation book. So please pay attention, again, to what is going on around you. Be as present as possible. Love everyone. Grieve when you need to. I was just laying in the park yesterday for most of the day, literally in a park where MLK had done a speech because I was grieving, I was crying, I was just melting into the earth because the pain that is occurring in me every single day that I look at social media, that I stay up to date in the news because I do it intentionally. I'm not going to turn away from it. I do it intentionally. The pain is deep. But in order for me to be able to get on this plane and continue to these events and be on TV down the road and do all these things, I have to have a level head. I have to make time to cry. I have to make time to be angry. I have to make time for love and joy and get back up. You have to get back up and keep going. And the rest of the people will follow you. They always will. They just need to see if you're doing it too. So be present so people know it's safe to fight back. It's safe to grieve. It's safe to feel emotions. It's safe to go help people like Mr. Chow. It's safe to be a good person and to receive love. It is safe to do these things, but we have to do it together. And I'll be making more content about this on my TikTok if I don't get banned. About receiving love and giving love. Because people are so traumatized, they can't even recognize love. They'll just run away from it. Run the hell away from it and question people. Literally, they don't like. I'm like, I really wish I could have a session with you because you were just given so much love and you got angry. Now that is something that we need to talk about. Well, that's a different episode. But please do, again, take care of yourselves. Stay grounded. Look out for each other every single moment of the day. And keep a lookout for one of my new programs that's coming. Again, Highest Knowing. If you are interested, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be accessible. And it's going to be a little bit more of an open forum so we can be in each other's energy again. So we can support each other. So we can love on each other and share in love in the world. And I just want to say thank you for everyone who's been supporting me along on this journey and all of my social platforms and sharing my content. Literally sharing, liking, and commenting on my content is like the best thing you can do for me right now. Like many of the other activists and healers, because these platforms just fucking drop you like a fly if you say anything wrong. So I really appreciate you all who have literally been liking my story every step of the way. It means the world to me. I know who you are. I'm going to be sending you some gifts as a thank you from my apothecary. So I'm sending you all a ton of love, a ton of hugs. And also, if you haven't already, please go review my book on Amazon. And it's also on Barnes & Noble. And I'm also be adding my link back if you want a signed copy. And if you're in Charlotte, you can pick it up at Pura Vida. It's run by a woman named Teresa. She's amazing. And then I'll also eventually have books at Curio, the store above, from Gina. And I'll be doing a book signing there. So I love you all. I'm sending you lots of hugs. Thank you so much for showing up for me and showing up for yourself today and showing up for the community. As always, I appreciate you and I love you, and I will see you out in the community. Okay, bye, my friends.
Hey, if you're ready to ascend to happiness and live the life you've always wanted, join me in my Empowered Living Facebook group for socially conscious healers, witches, and spirituals, and sign up to get my free Empowered 5 Practices to Ascended Happiness guide. It's helped others expand their consciousness and soar beyond sight, sound, and imagination in just one day. It's the catalyst you need to embrace your magic and change the world. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the group next time.